going to move right into our guest tonight. He is a legend in the sport of monster trucks, monster jam driver of the Max D. I'm sitting here looking. I actually made myself some cheat sheets, and I've got to sit here and read this. Monster Jam World Champion in racing, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2009, 2011, 2012. Freestyle Monster Jam World Champion 2001, 2002, 04, 06, 13, and two-wheel skills champion in 2019. I tell you what, y'all certainly know him. I promise you, if you've seen him, he's a bad dude. He is definitely knows how to stomp on that loud pedal, and let's just bring him right on in here right now. My buddy, Mr. Tom Meents. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing awesome, man. I've never heard you give me any accolades like that. That's a first. Super excited just for that. You just made my whole night, bud.
Well, good. Good. You know, everybody needs a little ego boost every now and then, you know. Even me every now and then. You know, it's we've been racing a little bit. It's been a little scarce here and there. I mean, but you know how it goes. I mean, you check on it. I will tell everybody that when you know I'm racing, you'll text Donna. You want those updates, and we try to keep you informed. And you are definitely a drag racing fan. Ain't no doubt about it.
I've been a drag racing fan for a long time. You know, I got National Dragster for years. I followed the sport. A lot of it was to do with my mud racing, you know, lifestyle before Monster Jam and Monster Trucks. I raced mud cars in mud, in the rails, you know, top alcohol motors, 1471, high helix, turning 50% over. I mean, that was a huge rush. It was similar to drag racing, but, you know, in the mud. And I followed the sport then. And, you know, I was around when Eddie Hill, you know, broke the record, you know, and I was certainly watching when Kenny Bernstein went over 300 mile an hour, and all those times, all that history of that sport, you know, I followed it extensively, exclusively. I went to a number of events, and luckily I got to meet you one day.
I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but we've had fun, ain't no doubt about it. So you talked about mud racing. So where did the motorsports bug come from? You know, for me, it was Daddy. You know, I don't remember him racing, but he took me racing. And that was kind of what started it for me. Where did it start for you?
100% with my father, because my father was a mechanic his entire career, you know, and he's still alive today, of course. But, you know, he got me the bug. He fed me the bug. And certainly my cousin Richard, he had big four-wheel drive trucks. You know, and he put big tires on them, and he'd break them. He's about 7 years older than me. He played in the mud a lot, and he got that bug going for me, you know. And then my dad used to help him, and I was just a young kid, and it was only a matter of time before, and I really caught the bug. And Dad did some drag racing, street cars back in his day, you know. And like you know, all you got to do when you're racing is win one trophy. And Dad did, and he was hooked for life. And he had to stop all that because, you know, he had, you know, my sister and me. So he moved on to just being a father, a great father at that. But once I started getting involved in trucks and racing and anything to do with that, he got to relive his childhood. He got to really add all the fuel to my fire, and he really got me set up to go in the right direction.
So I know right now you're in Paxton, Illinois. Has Paxton always been home, or where did you grow up?
Well, you know, I grew up a long way from here in a small town of Loda. And when I was 3 years old, me, my tricycle, and the whole family, we made the big move down the street to Paxton, Illinois, the big 4-mile move. And we've been here ever since. Great little small town, so many fantastic people. And, you know, a lot of people here have worked for Monster Jam, Monster Trucks, and we've had a lot of drivers from this area. And it is a cool place to call home. And, you know, a lot like Drummond's, you know, I mean, everybody gets behind you and your team, and we feel that same energy here.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've stopped by there pretty much every year when we're headed to Route 66 Raceway. I stop and you'll carry me out to eat. And it's definitely kind of the same small town feel like here in Drummond's, no doubt about it. I mean, it's a neat place, and and I do enjoy coming by there without a doubt.
And no doubt, whenever you do come by, unfortunately, Doug Stringer never sends no money for us to eat. And, always have to treat when you come here and, make sure that you and Donna get fed. But, that's fine by me. I love it when you stop by.
Well, we traded out with hot dogs when you come to the drag races.
We do. You got a great hospitality area, and you've always taken care of me there. And I definitely, anytime you want to come by and get a meal, you do let me know.
So you were mud racing, and you tell me about the NMRO. What is the NMRO? You were the 1992 champion in the open class. What's the NMRO? I don't even know what it is.
National Mud Racing Organization. It really started the footprint for bringing it to the next level. And, fortunately, we got on a right combination there for a few years. You know how that is. And everything was just working well. Unfortunately for us, we were breaking piston ring lands like every, weekend. And that's a lot of work for my father and I, tearing that motor down every week. But we were on such a good combination with the fuel and timing, and the thing was really ripping, and having, a 1471 high helix blower. And we used to buy a lot of parts from different, drag racers. Don DeVault never lived far from here over in Kentland, Indiana. We would get some of his old stuff. And once we got on that good combination, we started winning so many events and setting fast times. We just couldn't stop. It was unusual to have to tear the motor down, pull the heads every single week, plus work a job. My career is a lot like yours was, where, we had jobs, and, the job was a good 50 hours. And then you started working on your hobby, and that would last till 2, 3 in the morning if you got ready to go somewhere. But looking back on all those great memories and knowing, honestly, I wish I could go back there now. It was so much fun then struggling. The struggle was real. It was real fun.
So what did you run for power plants? I know you had the supercharger on it. Was Big Block Chevrolet? What was it?
Yeah, we run a Keith Black aluminum Big Block Chevrolet with some dart heads. And, that thing would really get along. And, I don't know, it's nothing like leaving a line on a 1,000-foot pass and a top fueler. But those paddle tires, they really hooked up in the mud, especially got some good bite and clay. And occasionally you would get a good wheelie out of it. I remember one time in Fort Recovery, Ohio, I actually did one of the first blow over backwards. I went 160 some feet and went through the lights upside down backwards. Incredible. Tore the machine completely up. And then we worked on it for like 24 hours just so we could stage it to get the 5 points we needed to continue the chase for the championship that year. But man, they really get a lot of traction right out of the hole for that first 60 foot.
I've never been to one, but I have watched a ton of videos. It's so awesome how much dirt, sand, mud, those paddle tires, they whoop it back there behind them cars when they go.
They do, and they leave the line hard. And, you don't really get the shake like you do. You don't have the tire shake, but it certainly gets your attention. And, there's no other feeling like it, but it's such a quick ride that it's over before it even starts.
So in 93, you teamed up with Paul Schaefer, and you continued to win championships, and you started driving the Mud Patrol. How did that come about? Was it just a point where you and your dad needed to team up, or was it a good opportunity? Kind of what was that all about?
We got to know Paul. We were super interested in monster trucks. Always was when I was a little kid, 10-year-old kid, cutting out all the pictures out of magazines and tape them all over mom's wall, and just loved monster trucks as long as I can remember. And, Paul had a monster truck, and he also had a mud car at the time. And great guy. We used to help him at events for free. And then I started going to events just to help him, just to be around monster trucks. And he certainly gave him my big start, my big push to get into the sport. And, we remain great friends today. I often talk to him. I get up in his area, Portage, Indiana. I certainly stop by and buy his dinner, that's for sure. He gave me a great start. I started driving Mud Patrol for him. I did that for about a year or two. he was driving Monster Patrol at different events.
Mhm.
And then he decided he was going to build a second monster truck. That was another Monster Patrol. And, he pegged me to get the opportunity to drive. And it really was a dream come true. I couldn't believe it. I worked at a dealership down here in Rantoul, Ford and Chrysler. So there was plenty of work there. And, I got, I got this job, and I talked to my service manager at the time, and I'm like, I want to try this. I got to try it. I really got to go for it. It's my dream job come true. And it was actually going to pay me a little more money to start than I was making, and I thought, how can this possibly be, to get a dream job, doing exactly what you love and making more money. And I got that great opportunity. He goes, okay, you get this car done, you get the motor in this car, and you get a couple more finished, and you can leave in 2 weeks. I said, perfect, I'll get it done. I got it done early. And I said, hey, I want to be able to come back. He said, you can come back anytime. And I seen him about 2 years ago, and I said, you still got that job open for me if I need it? He goes, absolutely, Tom. You kept that bridge perfectly solid, and it's there forever. And it was awesome.
So what year was that? So you left your normal job. What year was that?
Yeah, it was about 92.
92.
90, yeah.
Man, you've been doing this longer than I have. I quit my normal job in 98.
Yeah, and I mean, before that, I did it for a good 7 years. I did mud, and started just with my stock pickup truck, driving it to and from work, and running in mud on the weekends. And never thought I'd get that opportunity, and never thought I would drive a monster truck, let alone for Monster Jam, driving Max D, and being able to do that. I'm starting my 28th year. It is a super cool job, and certainly, the biggest fuel for it is the fans. I mean, they're fanatics.
So you ended up, while you were still driving for Schaefer, you ended up winning the 97 Truck Fest. Do you remember that event? That was a big deal.
That was huge. It was kind of the prelude to the Monster Jam World Finals. And I was relatively unknown. I mean, I've been making a name for myself, and I certainly was getting a reputation of being a wild driver. But everybody was there, all the top dogs, and for me, that was a super cool moment. I don't even remember how many trucks were in that class. It was the most ever assembled at that time. It was at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I went out there, and I stood the world on end, and Dad and I were there. We did a show. Matter of fact, I mean, you'll understand this. We did a show in Englishtown on Wednesday night, and then we hauled all the way down to Charlotte. We had some valve train issues, like everybody does, and we were overhauling the valve train Thursday, and I believe the event started on Friday. It was a 2-day event, and overall, I got to win that first Truck Fest, and that was just the start of a fantastic, notoriety of a career for sure.
So it's funny you mentioned Englishtown. I think that is actually where you and I met for the first time. I went there for the Wednesday night, 4th of July week, big old match race they would have. Being, from small town Tennessee, I could not believe there was such a thing as a match race on Wednesday night. For me, Wednesday night's church night. And I mean, I'm not knocking nobody, but I'm like, it's Wednesday night, And we went there with hardly any people to work on the car because we were only going to make 2 runs. So we went there basically with the car ready. But, we were busting our tail trying to get ready. And at Englishtown, you tow the car out from under this big giant wall. And when they towed me around the corner there, it was absolutely packed, standing room only. And kind of what I remember about meeting you was Mike Clover, my current crew chief, he's like, dadgummit, that freaking monster truck's been out there on the racetrack. Be careful when you go through that spot. I remember that. But, man, what big shows they had at Englishtown.
It was crazy, just same thing you said. The first time I went, Wednesday night, you kind of roll in there and you think, okay, well, I'll just skip around, run over some cars, and it'd be a pretty easy deal Wednesday night. And when you saw the crowd, it was packed, sold out.
Yes.
And that happened 4 times a year, and the Knapp family, they knew how to do it right, and they were a fun bunch. And, it was super cool. And what a legendary group. And, you know, now that place is closed. And, you know, that was a very special part of my life. And I got to meet so many, you know, NHRA stars there. You know, I remember being next to Warren Johnson and talking to Warren. And, you know, that was a big moment for me. And Shirley Muldowney was there. And
That's
John Garlitz. And I spent a lot of time around Paul Smith. And Paul Smith always was wanting me to come drive a funny car, you know, and just being around all those great guys, it really, you know, it really brought my interest for NHRA drag racing higher than ever. And I did that show, that event. I did it 4 times a year for, I don't know, 12, 14 years. I was at all of them. And, you know, I missed the place, facility, and certainly the Knapp family.
Oh, me too. Me too. I don't know how they did it with you, but with us, at the end of the night, Mr. Knapp would come over with a brown paper bag full of cash. It was, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we would be, you know, like, watch that lunch sack right there. Make sure it gets put away, you know, you know, trying to pack the trailer up. Because he would just come over and he would talk and not really, you know, say a whole lot of nothing. But he would set that sack down and off on his way he would go to pay the next person, you know. Those were fun times.
It was the same story like you're saying. He would come around, he'd drive that, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. He'd drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee around. He always went to the drag races first because you guys have been around forever and you complained more, I think. So we had to wait for everybody, and you'd wave at him, and not yet, and he'd go on to the next person. But, you know, he you know, and he always had a horrible night, of course, you know, like so many good guys like that. Oh, yeah, it didn't make no money tonight. Must have been one seat somewhere that didn't get sold. But, man, what a great family. They did a great job running that place. And like you said, you know, they only got so many special passes a year to make noise. And they were right there in the middle of so many high-end, beautiful homes. But those people came out in droves. And a lot of them came from the city, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It really, really was. So I know you said you started in 92. I started in 98. And about this time frame, we're talking about these 4th of July match races. I did it in a few years. I didn't do it nearly as many as you. But how about all the time behind the wheel, pulling all that stuff up and down the road? You've done it. I've done it. Is there any highlight stories you got from just one that stands out? I'll tell you mine real quick. And talking about match racing.
I'm going to top it, but go ahead.
I'm sure you will. We've shared some of these stories before, but we did a match race in Cordova, Illinois, and it was me and Buggy. You've met Buggy before. He worked on the race car forever. He's at Comp Cams now. And we did this match race, and it's only like 9 hours home. We're like, man, we could do this. You know, we get all packed up about 1 o'clock in the morning, and somewhere, some exit, pulled in, got some coffee, got back on the road, trying to stay awake. We're talking to each other, hitting each other. I see another exit. I pulled off. He's like, what's the matter? You got to, you know, use the bathroom? I'm like, there's no lights. We're just on exit. I'm like, no, man, I just got to get out for a minute. And so what he didn't realize until I had made a lap, I literally was running laps around the truck. So I had made a lap around the truck. When I was coming around for lap number 2, I looked back. He's right behind me. We were wore out, dude. But we made it home. You know, it's just like, and I won't do that stuff no more. And I tell the guys driving our trucks, if you get sleepy, just freaking stop, you know. But that's what we did. You know, it was like, you got to make it, get ready for the next race, and you got to, you know, get down the road and get home, get to the shop, whatever the case may be. But that's kind of one of my stories I tell all the time about hopping out of the truck and running laps to make myself get awake.
I have a couple, you know, I mean, years ago, and, you know, and this hasn't happened in 20 years, but do a lot of driving, just like you said, and I drove the rig, and we'd always do the flick, and people like, what's the flick? You take your finger as hard as you can, and you hit yourself right under the nose right there. It's going to make you cry, and it's going to wake you up both. But that was always our way. We kept going. But then, you know, a cool story was we were all driving down the road. We left an event in San Diego, and we were headed to Houston for our next event. You know, I had a 1983 cab over, slick ride, big steering wheel, you know, had a 400 Cummins in it. And by the time you got there and got out of that thing, you were already mad enough, to put on a great event. But that thing blew up on me on the side of the road there. And we were traveling with some other people, Jason Childress with Barefoot, Eldon Depew with Taurus. And we were all going the same direction, week after week there. And that engine blew up, started knocking. And we tore it apart right there. Eldon pulled me down the road. He had a 3208 Cat RV. He hooked onto my rig, his rig, and we pulled it down to a rest area in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And we started working on that thing. We pulled the pan down, found the problem. The crankshaft, the connecting rod was out. The crank was messed up. And like, what are we going to do? Had no idea, no time, no money, of course, them days were struggling, and we made it through. And so we singled that thing out. We ran it on 5 cylinders. I drove it all the way to Houston. We fooled the valve train. We put a cover over the intake. We, got everything going, took the fuel away from that cylinder, and we got rocking on down the road. And that thing shook and vibrated until you got up to about 75 miles an hour. And it was super smooth. And one of the guys in our group couldn't run 75. That was the only problem after that. That 5-cylinder Cummins would keep up and go 75 and be smooth. But when you left the stoplight or anything, it'd shake you right out of the dash. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you had to do early on in the career. And I know you had a lot of challenges, struggles too, but that was one of my most memorable travel moments that we were able to overcome. We got to Houston, and we made it on home back to Paxton and got the truck fixed.
Oh, yeah. I've not pulled the oil pan off of a big truck in a rest area. I haven't done that. So I'm still kind of going down the history of Tom Meents here. So 99, you buy your own truck. What prompted that? What made, or did you have to?
Well, I had my own for quite a while, but I was teamed up with Paul and Monster Patrol, and it was time to just make a separation. He'd been super good to me, but I needed to be more in control, more in charge. And Monster Jim, they had a great arrangement with WCW. And it was like, man, we need to make this turn. And, Bill Goldberg, the wrestler at the time, was a beast, and he was winning every event he was wrestling in. And we were winning every event in Monster Jam. And it seemed like the perfect marriage. And we put that deal together in 2000, and we came out and to have that deal and we debuted that in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome. And I don't remember what it held at that time. I think it was 67,000 people. And Bill Goldberg, he went out there and he was a superhero of that city. Of course, that's his hometown.
Yep.
And the Monster Jam fans were excited to see him. And then he introduced his own truck, and I came out as a driver. I mean, that was a crazy moment. That was super cool to be involved in. That whole program started way too late. And you've done this a lot in your career with Top Fuel cars. The deal comes together so late. The truck's not even built. The body's not built. The motor's not built. All those things. And you just overcome it somehow. And late hours, we were working 20-hour days the last week. And we literally made it down there just in time to tire it up. And if I remember right, the wheels didn't even fit. We had to grind the centers out to make it through the door. But we made a great debut, and we had an awesome 2 years with that deal.
So before, I'm going to stay on that 99 thing. So you were in Bulldozer, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And there was a big moment in 99 where on national television, you beat Dennis Anderson and Grove Digger.
Yeah, and I didn't forget that moment, but I skipped over it. But the cool part about that was, them guys have been running on TV every week, and I was at Monster Jam events every week, but I wasn't on the TV schedule. And it was kind of eating at me for a couple years, and I'm like, I could take those guys. I need to get out there. I want to, I had a big chip on my shoulder, and I made that switch and went into Bulldozer, and that was super sweet. And I went rolling down to Orlando, and I pulled in that parking lot, and the season had already been going on. It was almost to the end of the TV season, and I unloaded that thing. And I don't know if everybody give me a whole lot of credit, but I was there to make some noise. And you've been in that same position yourself. you're the young gun and you're starting to get a little teeth under your skin and you want to make a name for yourself. You want to be a winner. You want to get out there and win that big event. And that moment was special. We went right through that bracket, click, click, click. And, we were able to beat Dennis that night in the final round. And what an exciting moment. And, he always says, well, my rear end went out. Oh, my rear end went out. That's what he always says yet to this day. Whether it went out or not, I was running better times than he was before his rear end went out. But, man, it was an exciting time as well. Had a great time.
Yeah. Was that kind of the beginning of the rivalry? And I know it's a friendly, but there is a rivalry there. The Max D.
It's a huge rivalry, but it is respectful.
Right.
I will say that. The Anderson family and our family, very respectful between us. As far as, I even got the great opportunity to train Kristen. What a wonderful driver she is and a great representative for Monster Jam. But just to see that, it was a start. But even before that, a little event in Pueblo, Colorado. And, I'd been in monster trucks for a while and always heard about Dennis Anderson. He was the guy. Nobody else was even close, And everybody'd say, you can't beat him. Don't even try. You can't top him. Don't even try. And I went out there that night. And it was the first time I'd ever met the guy. First time I was around him. And I'd seen other gravedigger drivers, but I'd never seen the man. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and go to work here. I had maybe just a little bit of money in the budget that I could push things a little harder. And you certainly do that yet today, when you get that moment and you want to get that number one qualifier and wear that green hat. But, that was the night I decided that Saturday night that I was going to get him. And that was the first time I ever seen him. And I think he remembers it too. And that, I think he understood at that moment that, I had it in my heart. That's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it forever.
So it's funny, like I say, I had to bring up the rivalry a little bit because a few months ago I was on Gears and Nachos, the podcast that Bryce Kinney and Adam do. And he said that even to this day, Dad will call, hey, y'all let the Max D truck beat you. What happened? How come you didn't win? So I love that. And I love that it's respectful, but I also love the fact that that's how deep into it that your family and their family is into taking, obviously, Gravedigger, Max D, the trucks you've driven, and make them winners.
It is, but it's not. Like you said, some people say, oh, it's fake, it's phony, No, it's not. We really, truly do not want to see them win. You know what I mean? If we can't win, we want to see somebody else beat them at times. But, we are respectful, and we want to make sure that, when we do beat them or they beat us, they want to make sure that we were at our best and we're giving it our all. And it's a great family rivalry and a great, brand rivalry for Max D and Gravedigger. And it's cool, for me to come from humble beginnings and just fortunate to get a job driving a Monster Jam truck and then be considered one of the tops and, get to be compared to that guy. That's really a trophy in my book.
Absolutely. So Donna's always in the background over here doing things, watching the questions, and she's giving me the finger. So what do you got over there, Donna?
Well, that's one of the questions somebody wanted to know. Do all the drivers get along? But, hey, they're all trying to get a championship. So.
Yep. So I guess
to me, it's probably a lot like drag racing. We all get along. We go out to eat. We'll always be there to help people. But, when you put the helmet on,
yes.
I think you develop a hatred. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I agree.
You want to beat them. There's no doubt about it. And there have been some heated moments over the years, but everybody's gotten over it. Everybody's moved past it. You've been involved with some yourself.
Yeah.
I can think of one in particular I'm not going to bring up, but that's real. That's real. But that's what makes it real and great for the fans is, we care that much in Monster Jam, just like NHRA. You care to give it your all to win every time you're on that track.
Absolutely. So while I'm asking you the tough questions here, I got another one for you. When I say Cam McQueen, what do you think of?
He's a crazy man. He's always been a crazy man, and he's one of the guys that first completed a backflip in front of fans. At an event.
That was really my question.
And then to see that was super cool. He did it off a smaller obstacle than I did in testing and training. I got to do the first. Unfortunately, it wasn't in front of any fans. And then when I brought it to the fans, it failed. But, that's part of it. When you're on top, pushing the envelope harder than ever and doing everything you can to be the guy to start it all, man. Everybody's after you. And he went out there and he did it off a secret little obstacle. And, I wasn't at the event, but to see it, it was super cool. And, props to him. He was a Nitro Circus guy and certainly wasn't afraid of anything,
So you've spent a little time with Travis Pastrana and the Nitro Circus crew. What was that like? That's something that I really messed up. At one point, we basically kind of worked for the same company in a roundabout way. IHRA was owned by Clear Channel, which owned Monster Jam. And I had the opportunity to take myself and Dalton and go to Travis's house, but I had some sponsor commitments could have got out of, but I didn't, because obviously the sponsors are what keeps our bills paid. But I hate that I didn't get that opportunity, but you've had it. What was that like?
Oh, it was super cool, because Travis had an Olympics as such at his house, at his compound. And he had so many different types of drivers there. Adam Anderson and I were there, representing Monster Jam. And Damon Bradshaw was there representing Supercross. And Jimmy Johnson was there representing NASCAR. And you can see tidbits of this still on YouTube. And, Travis was, he was involved. And it was just crazy, And I think Adam and I both went in there. Adam came with a pair of Carhartts on. And I think it was August or July, just for a little extra protection. And we were riding those famous tricycles they use down hills that you should have never been down, with no brakes. And we were doing all kinds of stuff. I think when we went in there, we were kind of thinking we might at best come back with maybe a broken hand or something. Fortunately, nothing happened. But I did end up backflipping a bicycle into his foam pit, several other things. Fun times, and I love to go see their show anywhere they're around here. Travis and I still stay in contact, similar to what you and I do. He's in the area. I'll make sure I get over to see his event, and he hits me up when he's in Baltimore. And last year he went to the event, with the other Max D driver, Blake Granger, there, and he backflipped an ATV after he had a little grudge match with Blake, and having him around and his involvement driving a Monster Jam truck, those were super special times. And for sure, that guy's got no fear.
Oh, I believe that. I love watching him. And like I say, it's one of those things I wish I did, but I didn't. I want to go back to the Goldberg truck for a moment. There was some controversy over that truck. What was the controversy? I really don't even know. Me and you talked about tons of stories, but today I was doing a little digging just so I could kind of get my history correct in order. And all it says was there was some history over some controversy over the Goldberg truck. Do you remember anything about any controversy over that truck? Was there something amongst the other teams and drivers?
Well, some people didn't like the involvement of wrestling. They thought it may make our sport look a little not real. But to me, it didn't, and, when it started winning all the time, that kind of made it look a little different. But, I was super hungry. I had a brand new truck, and we built here at our home shop. And we really wanted to get out there and represent Bill. And, his involvement was paralleled. Really, nobody had ever had that much involvement in the sport of Monster Jam. And he went to several events. He was very involved. He loved the sport, and that part was what really made it cool for me, is his involvement and want to be there. And, certainly there were some issues with the Gravedigger team at that time. They didn't like, a wrestling team coming in there. And and then being able to get the upper hand on them. Then, like Top Fuel or anything, the competitors kind of are always doing this, and somebody gets onto something new, and just thinking back to like Dom Perdome when that funny car started running so fast. I mean, why was that? That is out of nowhere. That funny car just kept going faster every week. And similar to that, and this truck was super fast in the beginning. One of the things is it was real durable, and it wasn't under the weight limit, but it was extremely light. We since had to, add a lot of weight to it to make it hold up for, today's punishment in Monster Jam. But yeah, it was definitely controversial. A lot of fans love it, and a lot of wrestling fans came to Monster Jam. They loved it even more.
So you won your first World Finals in Goldberg, is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you consider that like right up there at the top, one of the highlights, or no? Or is it just among another one of those World Finals that you won?
It's not like the top of my highlight, because I can tell you I won a lot of races that year, and it's like, how can we not win it? We have to. Almost became a burden that we had to win that race. You know what I mean? And when we did, I don't think it was much of a surprise. We were fast in practice. We were fast in the prelims, and pretty sure we qualified number one as well. And things were really rolling our way, And I mean, it was a special moment, and Bill was there as well, But thinking back now, all these World Finals later, we didn't know, because we had the Truck Fest, and it was around for 2 years, and the second year was even softer. And we didn't know if this would be around, like it is today.
Right.
So when you look back now, it's more special now than it was at that time, because now it is a big start in the mark of the World Finals, 12 World Finals championship. It set up the stage, and that's something everybody's after now.
Oh, for sure. So do you ever contact Goldberg anymore? You ever see him, talk to him?
Absolutely. Wasn't that long ago I talked to him. I keep in touch. He hit me up, I don't know, it might have been 2 years ago. He wanted to come to the World Finals in Las Vegas. His son was, I can't remember, the son was 11, 12 then. He was interested in going, and I was actually on his podcast back during that time. And, we got him in out there at the World Finals, and he got to relive, his Walk of Fame, because there's a Monster Jam Walk of Fame there, and he got to see his truck up on the walls. And that was cool for him, and I talked to him not too long ago. I was going to go to an event, and I did go to an event this past year in Houston, and he wasn't able to go. He recently moved to Texas. He's doing real well and still very active, and, you see him still doing events. So, and his love of motorsports is huge, all types, and he's got a lot of cars, and what a great guy. He was a great guy to be involved with, and I loved every moment of that.
So 2001, you doubled up at World Finals, racing and freestyle. And some point during that event, I caught a little bit of this on YouTube. You and Dennis might have tried to run over tires. What was going on there?
Yeah, it really got out of hand, and it's been seen in other motorsports, but I don't think quite to this level. Not with 250,000-pound Monster Jam trucks. He was having a rough night, and I broke down on the track, and I think I even won freestyle that year, and I did, and my truck broke down out there, and he thought it would be time to take out some of his frustration on the track, and that just set up, like I said, that rivalry was real, and it was real important that whoever was last got on top, and he hit my truck, and then I went to the back and got another truck, and, they were holding me up and stopping me, and they were like, we're almost out of time, and no, you're not going, and I wouldn't take no for an answer, and finally said, you're going, you got 10 seconds, and then I ran into his truck, and then he got another one, and it really boiled over to, a total chaos. But we were all right after that, I mean, it was just how much we both wanted it, and that passion. and that pent up frustration and wanting to be the better guy for the fans is what brought this sport to where it's at. And it's certainly, at that point, it was at an all time high.
I mean, I love that. It is on YouTube. It's out there. And again, I'm not trying to stir up none of this stuff, but it is such a great rivalry, and it's no different than people bringing up. You said you weren't going to bring it up, but me and Doug Herbert, we get along now, but it was a huge rivalry. We did not like each other. I mean, there was no fun family rivalry thing there at all. He and I did not like each other, period. And it was, ugly. It was bad words even after the thing everybody saw on TV, for a long time. And obviously, we went through some stuff and both of us got over it. But at any rate, so Max D comes along. Whose idea was it? Was that a Tom thing? Did that come from Feld? I mean, it's such a perfect name for you and your driving style.
That's where it originated right there. It was like, we need to have your own identity. We need to be separate from anything that ever happened before. We want to, name something, Max D, maximum destruction when you're on the track, and, creator of chaos, for many reasons, driving style, attacking obstacles, filling the whole track with a reckless abandon. All that stuff rolled into one, and then having the great opportunity to have my own identity, hit the track with that. I mean, the moments I had with Paul Schaefer always have a special place in my heart. Bill Goldberg, driving Bulldozer, having Team Meents truck this there for a short time. But, to be able to have something that was branded around me and my driving style, that's what, it was all about. And that was the start of it. And, to get that on the track and debut that was really cool.
And it really is. I mean, it's you look for, and I use this a lot because even though I posted Neil earlier as a video on social media, I am a huge fan. And for drag racing, it's John Force is kind of the guy. But for Monster Jam, it's Max D and Gravedigger. Y'all are the two. And when we were younger, it was like Max D's coming to our town, and y'all would come to Memphis, a little bitty arena down there, and we love it. And I still come down, a couple years ago you were there, and it's awesome. Which I got to bring this up because that just triggered a memory. And both of us I've had a lot of tire shake. You've hit your head a lot, so it takes weird things to make me think of stuff. What started you going up into the grandstands, which is so awesome? But when you finish your runs, you take off up in the grandstands and find somebody, you give them your helmet. It's incredible. But before I let you start going on that, the night we were in Memphis, me and Donna and Nathan and Tracy, all my family, little Gray, you had spotted, you knew where we were at. And you made your way right up to the grandstands, and I was drinking a Mellow Yellow, and you promptly took it from me and just killed it the rest of the way. But anyway, what started that? Where did that idea come from, or did it just happen?
It just, I love every type of motorsports, and I love every type of entertainer in motorsports, and there's certainly been a lot of them. And one of them was a local hero here. Scott Kelly was a demo car guy, and I love demo cars, and I did some demo cars. And I remember Scott getting out after he won a demo, and he'd slam his helmet down and just all those things. And, and I've always been in competition on the track, obviously, with other competitors. But in my mind, Monster Jam's in competition with other forms of motorsports too, and, I've wanted to see us bring our brand up higher, get more people, and pack these stadiums, which we've had that great opportunity to do. And it was just another way for me to reach out, get back to fans. And, I've gotten so many great, reaches out on Facebook, letters of people that still have their helmet when they were a kid, and they bring their kids now. And that was just another level to bring it, to make sure that people knew that I really love the sport of Monster Jam, and I really loved them being there. And, when I first started driving, these venues, these stadiums, and these buildings were not full, and you probably realize this at the time too. I got my dream job driving a monster truck, and that was super exciting, but it kind of had plateaued at that point, and might have been in a slight decline. And with the opportunity of Monster Jam and so many great people there pushing forward with new ideas, and the drivers pushing it to a new level and making sure we were able to reach out and touch every of those fans, that's what sets it apart. And that's what sets you apart, and seeing you interact and not walking away from that fan. And I used to see Bill Goldberg do the same thing. I remember that year that, I saw him wrestle Phillips Arena, I think it is, in Atlanta. And he came back after a while. We had the truck down there. And so many of those wrestlers, they wouldn't touch their fans individually, and he had that ability, and he would do that, and he would take that extra time to reach out to the fans that waited outside for him to come out of the dressing room like an hour after the event, and he would sign an autograph for everyone. And I've always done my best to do that, and you do as well. And that's really where it came from.
I mean, for sure. Richard Petty's a hero of mine, and he's known for signing every autograph he can. And, and that's kind of one thing that's really driving me crazy right now because of the pandemic. I'm having to sign our hero cards and go put them out there. We can't stand back there right now, which is it's just the way it is right now. But I love the interaction with people. That. I love talking. You love talking. And, so it's fun. And you just mentioned a little something about, the younger drivers coming along. And, man, we're blasting through our time. But Monster Jam University, obviously, that holds a very special place in mine and Donna's heart. And you're basically the professor there. Tell everybody what Monster Jam University is and how it got started.
It's where we audition drivers. Monster Jam does, they hand pick them, we certainly have the opportunity to send in some, and, we hand pick them from an audition. They get the chance to audition. And then if they do well there, they get to go on and train, and it's truly a labor of love for everybody that works there throughout the whole summer. It's hot. It's enduring. Sometimes people don't learn at a good rate that day, and trucks break down and take a lot of work. But, at the end of a season, and you get to see those great people out there doing a fantastic job at the first event, I mean, that's when it's all worth it. But day to day, probably about like the clutch guy, and he's working on the top fueler and that clutch. And that's one of the worst, hardest, hottest jobs there is. But at the end of the night, when that thing's super smooth and makes that record run, that's when it's all worth it, and meeting you and, going by a lot of top fuel cars, funny cars, hanging out in the pits and NHR events. And you certainly came right over to me and right away said, yeah, my sister's a big fan, and her son and, all that stuff. And you knew my name right away. I mean, that right there, that started a great friendship for us. And I've been to many of your events and, and you're like, hey, how about giving my son Dalton a chance to drive? I said, absolutely. He had the ATV background, which we raced ATVs as well. And, I got to see him from day one, and I got to see him at his graduation ceremony with you. And, man, to see him out on track. And, I know he made you super proud. And it wasn't about the driving as much as it was how friendly of a guy he was to everybody. Like you said, Cody's on here, and he was a great friend to him. He was a great friend to my sons, Colton and Jared, and great representative for Monster Jam. And, man, to see him going way too soon, we're not going to ever be upset about it because of the great times we had with him. But
absolutely,
we know he's still there looking out for both of us and keeping us both safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was, kind of cool because the Monster Jam University was just starting. And so, Morgan, Cody, Becca, Bailey Shea, the Basil twins. And that was the first of the triple threat where they had ATVs, which obviously Dalton was world champion in that deal. And so, it's like, man, I would love to go, but I knew I couldn't be there, to watch. But you were pretty good about calling me, and you would call me a couple times during the day, and you're like, okay, the ATV thing, he's going to be teaching us. Let's see, the truck thing, he's got one thing down, and that was the whole shot, and the rest of it, we got to teach him everything. That's kind of what, that was a good memory, good phone calls, and that was pretty cool. And, to be part of that first graduating class is a big deal. We've got his, his certificate, and I don't want to sit here and dwell on that because both of us will end up crying about it, but it was an opportunity of a lifetime. And like you say, that little dude lived more in 22 years than most people get to do in a full, full life. But who are some of the people that we still got a good crowd watching? I know you can't tell everybody every name, but some of the big name people that have been through Monster Jam University that you taught.
Anybody that's been a new driver in the last 5-6 years has came through there, and they surprise you too. And I've never been a teacher till now, and I have a lot more respect for teachers and the job they do, because it's challenging and people will fool you. Their rate of learning, and some people come in there and they're super good right from the start, but they never progress, you know what I mean? And other people are like the little engine that they just slowly creep up on it and they go above and beyond that person that was really good from the beginning. But it's amazing that, to me, the biggest part about it is the stuff they do now in their first year is the kind of stuff I was doing after 7-8 years of driving. You take great, talented athletes, you handpick them, you sort through them, you audition them, you come up and train the best ones. And in their first year, they're doing stuff that I wasn't doing after 7 or 8 years. You take, knowledge that's been around for a while, and you add it to their skill level, and it's amazing what they can do. We've trained, I know at least 100 people. We've auditioned probably 150 or more. I'd have to think about it. And they all have had a lot of promise, and a lot of them have went on to awesome careers. And, one that really comes to my mind is Lindsay Reed winning the World Finals Championship, the last one. And, super cool to see her get that. And there's many others. And some of them that really didn't come out of there that great and have went on to do great things. And certainly Kristen Anderson is one of those little engines that could. She just constantly gets better slowly, and to now see the things that she can do, and setting the world record high jump, at such a young age, man. She's definitely the highest flying Anderson ever. That's a pretty big task right there to be on top of.
So I'm glad you bring that up. That's kind of towards the end of my questions that I had. So y'all just had a huge show on Discovery Channel with the Diesel Brothers. How much the world record extravaganza, it was like record after record. You set a world record. Todd LeDuc, Kristen, Adam, Ryan. It was just crazy, and you had a lot to do with the preparation for that. How long in preparing for that? I think it was a 3-hour-long TV show, wasn't it?
Yeah, we worked on that quite a while, and we certainly worked on double, forward momentum, double backflips for a while there, a couple weeks. Never enough time, never enough, ramp technology time, all that stuff we were pushing forward on. I did a lot of the preliminary practice, and, then getting Todd to the level I was at, and then pushing him on more and being able to watch him do it and add my intel to his, and, everything about that. And we have not failed at doing a forward momentum double backflip. We just haven't got it perfected yet. I promise you.
Yeah.
But, I can't even believe we're saying that at this point.
I know.
Thinking back when I started Monster Jam driving, doing a simple backflip was completely out of the question. And, the air that these Monster Jam trucks are able to achieve now with the technology they have. I've told a lot of people, to me, old monster truck driving was a lot like a steamroller. You you went over the cars, you kind of crushed them down, and now they're 100% like a fighter jet airplane. You maneuver them throughout the course, throughout the track, around the building perfectly, perfection to win a race or to put on an awesome freestyle. And there's a lot of talented people out there that can do it. But yeah, that stunt show is, a lot of people at Monster Jam, that's their dream idea. We love doing it. And to be able to come back, a lot of events, a lot of sports and motorsports have had to make a soft comeback. And for us to come back breaking Guinness Book of World Records, that is the biggest way we could possibly come back.
So I got to bring this up because you just talked about the old trucks and having to ease over the cars. So our good buddy, Howie Dalton, good old Howie Dalton, he's who got me out of a flipped upside down top fuel car, him and a guy named Mike Baker. But I know you know Howie Dalton. Howie told me one time, we were at Memphis actually, and I was sitting in your truck messing with the rear steer. And Howie told me, and I was talking about, your seat was a little too big for me. And he's like, I hate them seats. He said, those were the beginning of all of our work. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, just ask Tom about the old seats they used to use before they got these really nice fitted ISP seats. He said, because that was the beginning of the drivers not busting their butt so bad when they landed that y'all really started upping the game. That's what Howie says about the seats, and obviously shocks and everything else progressed from there. But that's from one Howie Dalton that has worked on a lot of Monster Jam trucks.
He has, and all the time he spent at IHRA too, he got to know you and a lot of great people, and he got a lot of technology from both sides. But, this safety aspect of the modern Monster Jam truck is, it's really second to none now. And other people, other forms of motorsports are looking at what we're doing and, having a great involvement as Simpson and so many people investing in what we do is made it a lot safer for the driver. And we're able to do bigger stunts than ever, drive wilder than ever and put on better events than ever. It's because of the seatbelt technology, the seat technology. Every seat is custom fit exactly for the driver, catches you at the shoulders, at the hips, everywhere about it, and certainly your helmet. And a lot of the same things that happen with Top Fuel and the head and neck restraints. I mean, you guys use it when you crash. So does NASCAR. We use it on every single jump, every landing. It keeps our head and neck so we can keep our focus on driving forward to the next obstacle. And that technology is what's brought it to such a grand level these days, and it'll keep it there and keep it safe.
For sure. So we're coming up on the end of the hour, and I've got a couple more questions. But as I said, Donna's been behind there. Every time somebody's logged on tonight, she's put their name in a random name generator. And
I'd love to see that machine.
We send out a little Parts Plus dragster and a Parts Plus Motorsport shirt. And so I've got to pick my laptop here and spin it around so we can see who the winner is this week. Give me a moment. We're like so high tech here, but we get the job done. So let's see who's going to win tonight. All right, I'm ready. Hit that button. Find out who's going to win some cool stuff tonight. Carrie Duffalo. So, Carrie, if you're still watching, send me or Donna your address and shirt size. Hopefully, we'll have your shirt size and we'll send you something out. So, I do got a couple more questions. We are up on an hour, but I knew this. We could go on forever, but we're not. So, I got to ask about the last show you did in Peoria, Illinois.
Yeah, that was a good one. I had the great opportunity to compete against my son, Colton Eichelberger, and he was driving Gravedigger that year, and I was driving Max D. And he was raring to go, and Dalton was there, and they were all there. And they were like, "Tom, you think you can ride an ATV?" I said, "Absolutely, I can ride an ATV. It doesn't matter to me. I can get it done." And, I went out there and I was a little green at it at first, and I was definitely driving the Speedster as well. And, I did really good at Monster Jam truck driving, donuts and freestyle. I could really put on them then. And I was a little green to the ATVs. But before the weekend was over, I did win an ATV main, although my son was beating me before that. And I did win one of the overalls in my first event with Triple Threat. So that was pretty special. I mean, although he did beat up on me pretty good that weekend, he actually ran his Speedster in mine and rolled me over in a jump. And it was definitely competition to the tens with the family there.
I might have had a little help with that question. I'm not trying to throw nobody under the Monster Jam truck, but I might have had a little help with that question.
I'll figure out who it is.
Yeah.
They'll pay.
Yes, and the last one was, and I'm not going to completely end it on the Gravedigger Max D rivalry, but what about the one time, and I found this on YouTube as well, where Ryan might have landed on Max D.
Well, he certainly did, He thought he could jump it. He didn't get the job done. And, we did have a few choice words after that, but we certainly have gotten past that moment. But, anytime I've jumped their truck, I've more than been able to clear it, and the same building 2 years later, Gravedigger was on the track. They were going crazy. Everybody thought I was going to land on it, but I cleared it with ease. But, Monster Jam events are coming back. They'll be back. And we're always looking for revenge. We're always looking for a way to entertain fans. And anytime you can get the upper hand on somebody, paybacks are always the worst.
So this is my last story, and again, we could just keep going. So you mentioned Doug Stringer earlier. He's my team owner. He's very involved with Great Clips. Great Clips has been on my truck, my race car, and I had told Doug the race shop, and Doug lived about an hour and a half out of St. Louis, and so I knew y'all were coming to St. Louis to the Edward Jones Dome, and I was like, Doug, we got to go to the show, me and Donald will come up and we'll go, and he's like, I ain't going to no Monster Jam show. I go to 30-something NASCAR races a year. Now you got me doing all these drag races. He's like, I got a weekend off. I'm not doing it. And I said, Doug, you have got to go to a Monster Jam show. And he really didn't want nothing to do with it. Well, it turns out his daughter, Sydney, wanted to go. And so we came and the Monster Jam folks treated us like royalty, no doubt about it. We had a great spot to watch from, and we get there, and this is Doug Stringer when we walk in. I can't remember what Edward Jones Dome holds, but 40 or 50,000 or whatever, a lot.
About 56 in our form, 56,000.
56,000. And believe me, there was 56,000 there because the folks at Feld had trouble finding a place for us to sit. But this was Doug. He couldn't believe it. That's all he kept doing. He just kept looking from one end of that stadium to the other, and there was not a seat to be had. And when we left there, he's like, Great Clips needs to be here. This is an amazing opportunity for a great company like Great Clips. There's 30, 40,000 kids there, and they all need haircuts, and so it wasn't long, that next thing you know, there's the Great Clips Mohawk Warrior out there, and you had a little something to do with who's driving it, and I kind of did too a little bit, I guess, and I'm just proud to still be somewhat involved in that way with Monster Jam. I love Monster Jam, I love you guys. I love, everything about it. The shows are fantastic, and I highly encourage all of my drag racing fans that are watching, if you've never been to one of their shows, it is an absolute must-do, because the opening of the show, if it don't give you goosebumps, you're not American. Y'all do it upright. It gives me chills every time when the shows begin. The shows are incredible, and that's what they are. And I know it's an intense rivalry for each one of you guys driving, but for people like me that are in the grandstands, it is one unbelievable show. You do a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's a quick, awesome event of 2 hours. If you've been before and it's been a while, you need to come back. It has totally changed. And so many, NHRA fans are fans of Monster Jam, and a lot of Monster Jam fans are obviously fans of NHRA. You really don't find one without the other.
Yep.
If I go to an NHRA event, I'm pretty easily recognized, and and you're the same when you go to a Monster Jam event, and it's cool to be involved with you, and certainly Doug, his involvement, having him around, and that kind of leads me to my thought. We've had for a long time. We still to make this happen. I need a squirt in a top fuel car. I'm thinking it's 60 foot, and then 330, and then 660, and then 1,000. Baby steps, right? And you certainly do deserve your opportunity to drive a Monster Jam truck. We talked about it before, and we got to get this fire lit. I'd love to train you, and I know it would be an exhilarating ride, and I know for a fact that you would have an exhilarating ride and get to feel what Dalton felt, and wow.
Oh yeah,
that's got to happen one of these days, and I still hold hope we'll make it happen.
We've got to figure that out for sure. I'm already sitting here. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, and I'm already sitting here thinking, even without my seat insert in the car, there's going to be a problem because our gas pedals will not move. And yeah, exactly. But I have sat in your truck, and while I couldn't reach the pedals, I think we could make some adjustments there. But I got to tell the truth, as big a guy as you are, and I don't know how we would figure this out, you are a funny car driver. You're built like a funny car driver. You're the right size for a funny car. I'm a jockey. Let's face it, I'm a little bit short compared to you, But I would love nothing more for Tom Meents to feel 6 G's in a forward acceleration, not from a sudden stop from landing on your head.
Well, ours is about 20 some G's from a regular landing. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't set you back in the seat like a fuel car would or a funny car, but yeah, I'm a funny car fan and always was, and I love top fuel cars too. But something about the funny car doing the burnout, and to see John back in the day how he used to do them 3/4 track burnouts over at the Nationals, and always being a fan, that was the sight for me. And when Perdome held that speed record at one time, and it was over the top of top fuel cars. I mean, that was just incredible. And that little wheelbase car, 125 inch?
Yep. Yep.
Man, what are we talking? 12,000 horsepower, 125 inch wheelbase. That's incredible.
It is. It is. Well, Tom, we could go on forever. We've already went past my normal hour. I am hoping to maybe see you at the U.S. Nationals, and more than anything, I can't wait for y'all's schedule to get back to normal, our schedule to get back to normal, so that we can see all of our great fans more back to normal. But thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really enjoyed it.
It is cool. It's just been great visiting with you. I don't even know if anybody was listening. It don't matter. It's just always great having a great visit with you. And, I can't wait to see all the fans. And Monster Jam is definitely working on their return, and they will be back bigger than ever. And, yeah, U.S. Nationals, man, what a great event. And hopefully I'll get to make it over there. And I would love to see my buddy hold the Wally there. That would be
coming up in a couple weeks, and you're always welcome. But I do appreciate it, and we will have to come back and do a round 2 on this, because we can certainly got way more stories to talk about. But I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody watching.
Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next Tuesday night.